eyes on the prosecution, irrespective of what the murderer claims or the accused claims in this case. So no matter what Aaftab says to the cops now or what he says in court, the cops will have to come out and prove that indeed that there is a girl who was 25, 26 years old who has been murdered, her body dismembered, butchered, chopped into different pieces and then dumped over a period of 18 days. This murder committed around the 18th of May 2022 between 8 and 10 p.m. and it's come to light in November. The entire nation talking about it. We're getting you all the latest straight up at this point. Let's quickly listen into what the lawyer had to say soon after the hearing ended in court today.
Question does not arise. We are bound by law. और कोई भी एक्यूज पेश किया जाता है वो उसको एज पर लॉ पेश किया जाता है. लॉ विल टेक इट्स ओन कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन. अटैक होने का क्वेश्चन डज नॉट अराइज. तो अभी केस बहुत इनिशियल स्टेज पे है, वेरी वेरी इनिशियल स्टेज. अगर वो कुछ कर भी रहे होंगे अभी सारी चीजें वो डिस्क्लोज नहीं कर सकते. अभी तो वो ये कहेंगे कि हमें प्राइमरी इनिशियल स्टेज में इन्वेस्टिगेशन है, हमें बहुत सारी रिकवरीज करनी है, एक्यूज को ले जाके वो उस पर अपना वर्क करेंगे.
A threat perception on the accused. So the judge agreeing to a VC, huge crowds present there, some calling for immediate capital punishment, some others saying nobody should take his case, he should receive no mercy. So clearly there is a huge amount of public anger and this has caught the imagination of the nation. Now there are developments, ladies and gentlemen. The Delhi police is looking for two individuals, namely Badri and Rohan. Aaftab met Badri in Himachal Pradesh when he went to visit Shraddha seeking a home in Chhatarpur. Badri introduced Aaftab to Rohan, who lives in Chhatarpur, and Rohan got Aaftab the house on rent. Rohan is also the caretaker of the rented house in which Aaftab and Shraddha lived, and Aaftab now will be taken to Himachal and Uttarakhand. Anvit is live with us. We have Yash, Anshul and Akash all tracking the story and joining us live at this point. Anvit, coming to you first. Most importantly, why only these two individuals? What is it that the cops want to glean from these two individuals? Also, have they been able to trace the third person, that girl who came to Aaftab's house and to that house with Shraddha's pieces, remaining body, mortal pieces in the fridge? Have they been able to identify that woman who Aaftab entertained in the house? So three individuals I'm talking about.
Yes, Anand, see, first of all, coming to the house in which they stayed, it is very crucial as evidence in this matter because the house in which they stayed, whether or not it had a proper rent agreement, we are also learning that in the rent agreement, Shraddha's name was written, also Aaftab's name was written, but this is the confession that he has made to the police. Rent agreement hasn't been recovered yet. They have been summoned, landlord and other people have been summoned, they will be questioned. But Badri is the link because when they had gone to Uttarakhand, they had met Badri there. Badri is the one who had helped them meet Rohan and also get them this house on rent. Also, this would also link them directly to the house owners. They would want to know more because there is also a theory that is going on, and the police are not coming out clear on that whether or not people were aware that this man had been living with Shraddha or he had completely managed to hide her identity. So these facts are yet to come to fore. But Rohan again becomes an important link because he had been staying in that same house. He had been a caretaker, and these theories that are coming out that Aaftab used to switch on the water motor in the night to hide while he used to chop off the body or maybe doing some other fishy activities. So these theories that are coming out, they need Rohan to ascertain them with a chain of events and give them time to time details of incident that unfolded in that house. Badri again becomes an important link because police have sought his Aaftab's extended remand for 5 more days, and now they'll be taking him to Himachal as well as to Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand particularly because Badri had also allowed them to stay there in some location. They would ask Aaftab to identify all those locations. They'll also take him to Himachal where all they had stayed. We are learning that Parvati Valley is one place where he'd be taken in Himachal, and this is what we are learning from the sources in police, but no clarity because the order is still awaited. And also what the submission that the argument that the police have put forward to court is that they also want his remand so that a narco test can be conducted. This again will be very crucial, even though this is fact that it will not not be admissible in the court of law alone, but whenever a person is subjected to narco test, they are questioned, they are interrogated in a subconscious state of mind. In that case, they spill some beans which might lead police to some fresh leads, and then a collection of evidence. Three things that the police are eyeing right now. One is Shraddha's phone, second is the murder weapon, and third is the body's head. These three are very crucial evidences to the case, and police are right now eyeing extended remand and narco test only to get to these three things that are still missing in the case.
Right. Stay with us, Anvit. We also have Anshul joining us from the Saket court. Anshul, what happened earlier? Why was this entire hearing done via a VC?
So yes, the lawyers in the Saket court actually raised objections of the main accused, Aaftab, coming to the Saket court. They actually demanded capital punishment for him, and we also confronted those lawyers because yes, the court hasn't given any decision in favor or against Aaftab. Then how can they demand capital punishment? Because they are the protectors of law. They are the people who make sure that law is implemented in the correct manner. So yes, they said that they are angry with the manner in which that the statements that have been made by Aaftab, where he has said that the manner in which he initially cut Shraddha into pieces and then stored her in a fridge, and over the next 18 days he goes out and throws those pieces in a dense forest. So this has angered a lot of people, not only the lawyers over here but also many people in the country, as they have been listening to this story very keenly on news and through social media as well. This has angered a lot of people because of the manner in which the brutality of this crime is something that has raised a lot of questions, that has shook the conscience of this entire nation yet again. So yes, that anger was something that was being shown inside the court, and the investigating officer of this case came to the court and requested the judge that since there is so much anger, it is going to be very difficult for them to provide security to Aaftab and to get him to the court safely, and hence they requested a video conferencing in this case. To this, the judge said that he understands the kind of anger that is amongst the people, and hence he allowed the video conferencing to be done. So yes, the Delhi police, the next task for the Delhi police is to make sure that Aaftab is safe, because there is a lot of anger, and that is the reason why what we are hearing, that Aaftab was shifted from the Mehrauli jail where he was kept for the past 5 days. He has been shifted from there, and now he is somewhere at an undisclosed location. The police is not telling anyone where he is being kept.
Yash is joining us.
That he is being perceiving from various.
Yash is joining us from the Mehrauli police station. We'll go across to him, and we also have, beg your pardon, Akash is joining us from the Mehrauli police station, and Yash is joining us from the Mehrauli forest. We'll go across to both of them, but before that, let's also listen in and play out for our viewers the conversation that Aaftab's friend had with us here at CNN News 18. This is a person who knew him for at least 2 to 3 years, and they went to the same coaching classes. Listen in.
You are not in regular touch with Aaftab, ऐसा कह रहे हैं आप? तो सर बेसिकली अभी जो केस हुआ है उसमें आपका क्या व्यू है, आप बता सकते हैं? मतलब आफताब के बारे में जिस तरह से डिटेल्स आ रही हैं कि जिस तरह से वो जो मर्डर किया है, और उसको मतलब सुन के आपको कुछ ऐसा?
ऑब्वियसली मेरे लिए ये शॉकिंग न्यूज़ है सर, क्योंकि किसी के लिए भी ये ऑल ओवर इंडिया सबके लिए ये शॉकिंग न्यूज़ ही है जिसने ये सुना है। ठीक है, तो मेरा तो एक टाइम पे वो फ्रेंड हुआ करता था, तो मेरे लिए भी वो शॉकिंग न्यूज़ है। जी नहीं, हम लोग सिर्फ क्लासेस में साथ में थे, कॉलेज में जब हम थे तब 12th में। राइट। तो मतलब कभी उसके बिहेवियर में ऐसा लगा कि वो बहुत वायलेंट है या रिवेंजफुल है या ऐसा कभी नहीं लगा, फ्रेंडली नेचर था उनका।
Shraddha's murder, which took place on the 18th of May, has shook the conscience of the nation. And in fact, that particular murder is unfolding in these jungles of Mehrauli in the national capital. Yesterday and day before yesterday, Aaftab was brought to this crime scene to make confession as to what and where he has thrown those pieces of body of Shraddha. And in fact, today, the police officials from Delhi are on ground and they are investigating this entire jungle to collect more and more evidences. First of all, I would show you certain visuals. What the Delhi police officials are doing right now, they are trying to make way for them by cutting down and chopping down these bushes and trees, is to make this investigation a smooth process. You can see in these visuals, these terrains are actually very tough, and it is very tough for the police to get inside the jungle and to collect all those evidences which Aaftab had pointed to. In fact, what we are also given to understand, a thigh bone has also been found in these jungles, but it still remains to be ascertained whether that bone belongs to Shraddha or not.
Right. We go across to Yash, who's still at that Mehroli forest. It's so dense, and even during the day, it can be quite unnerving to be alone in that area, which is a vast expanse of dense jungle and nothing around. How he managed to go in the dead of the night 2 to 3 kilometers into that jungle, and how was he able to get his bearings is another aspect. We'll try and get Yash to tell us a little more. But first, quickly going across to Akash. Akash, what has happened through the day with the cops? What have we been able to understand? Has he been clear or evasive about where is the head of Shraddha? The head or the face? Has he been forthcoming or has he been evasive there? And if he's not at the Mehroli jail, where is he?
Right. So, coming to the point, Anand, as far as the information that we have got from our sources within the Delhi police, so officers were saying that he was not cooperating initially, and that is the reason why they are unable to recover the murder weapon and all other evidences. And also, this is the reason why, they went forward for the narco test. Now, two important takeaways before I come to the point that where is Aaftab as of now. Two important takeaways from this particular order. The first one is that police has been given 5 additional days for the custody, and also about this narco test, because the consent of the accused is very crucial while it is about narco test, and somewhere the accused has agreed that he is okay with the narco test. Now, after the detailed order, we'll get to know as to what court has decided. But, narco test can be done in the national capital itself, because we are learning and we are reporting since morning that Ambedkar Hospital of the national capital has this facility now, and narco test can be done in this particular hospital. In fact, police officers have a list of questions where, they will be asking these questions to the accused in the, in the narco test. Also, since yesterday, we were learning that there are some groups who are protesting as of now against this particular incident, and in fact, they are demanding the capital punishment for the accused. But, police shifted Aaftab from this particular place. This is the place where, he was kept from last 3 to 4 days and he was being investigated. But as of now, he has been shifted to some other location, and police officers are not revealing that particular location because of the security concern. But as of now, this was an important hearing, and two important takeaways. The first one is the 5 days police custody, and the second one is that the accused has agreed on the narco test.
Right. So the accused has agreed on the narco test. That is one of the aspects. But there is clear threat. Now, what is his state of mind? How composed is he, or is he looking flustered? These are aspects. And will he change the versions? That is another point. What have the cops been able to find in the jungles in Mehroli? Yash.
Well, Anand, still now 10 bones have been found by the police officials still yesterday, and today what we're given to understand, a thigh bone has also been recovered by the police official, but that is to be ascertained whether it belongs to Shraddha or not. Well, in fact, I'll show you the visuals from this very place we are reporting since morning. You can see these terrains are actually very tough, and this is a very dense forest, and this extended police custody will actually work as a shot in the arm for the police in the national capital. Is to it's just been 2 days since Aaftab was brought to this very place to investigate and to recreate the crime scene over here in the Mehroli jungle. So now this police custody has been extended. With this, first we will be going. Police will be taking him to Uttarakhand, and Shraddha was butchered into 35 pieces, and till now 11 to 12 of those pieces have been found in these forests. So we are still looking at many other pieces of a body which police could actually locate from this very jungle. And in fact, teams are working in bits and pieces. In the morning, we have seen certain teams at one point searching and cordoning off that particular area, and then another team is at another point searching and cordoning off that particular area. Because this is a very big Mehroli. This Mehroli jungle is actually very big, and police cannot cordon off the entire area at once to investigate this matter.
Well, are they actually gathering any and every bone fragment that they're getting? Or are they being able to discern what could be a human bone or what could be an animal remain? There, Yash.
Well, yes, Anand, in fact, this is the very interesting and the main point which you have raised over here. In fact, this is a jungle where we're talking about. Here, we can find wild animals over here. So it is very tough to differentiate between a bone of an animal or of a human. And in fact, that is what the forensics teams have been doing at the spot, or the Delhi police is collecting evidence, and then those evidences are given to the forensic teams to ascertain whether it is a human bone or it's animal bone. Or in fact, there's another thing is it is very important to ascertain if any evidence which has been collected by the police over here at this very ground is of Shraddha or not.
Right, that is the biggest task, a gargantuan challenge for the Delhi police, because they're going to find lots of bone, lots of meat, lots of fragments and remains, and they'll have to then test all of it and eventually match it with Shraddha's DNA. So if they get any of the body parts from there and that matches Shraddha's DNA, they have a case. But a more robust case happens if they are able to find the head, the chopped head, the severed head, and where that has been disposed. We'll try and go back to Anvit and Anshul and also Akash in just a bit. In the meantime, there is a plumber who has witnessed Aaftab, who lived just in that building at the bar on the ground floor. CNN News 18 spoke with him. Listen to what he had to say.
मैंने लड़की को तो उसी समय देखा, फर्स्ट टाइम जब वो शिफ्ट हुए थे यहाँ पर, तो उस समय मैंने आते हुए गली से आते हुए और सीढ़ियों पे चढ़ते हुए देखा है। सामान लेके आए थे, हाथ में बैग था लड़की के, और उसके बाद लड़की को तो मैंने नहीं देखा, पर लड़के को मैंने कई बार देखा है, क्योंकि वो ऑनलाइन ऑर्डर करके खाना मंगाते थे, तो डिलीवरी वाले मेरे घर के सामने खड़े होते हैं। एक बार डिलीवरी वाले ने मेरे से पूछा भी था कि ये आफ्ताब नाम का कौन है, मतलब कि कहाँ रहते हैं। मैंने कहा यहाँ तो ऐसे, मैंने अपनी गली में तो ऐसा कोई है नहीं, कोई नया आया हो, कोई किराएदार हो तो मेरे को पता नहीं इसके बारे में, आप कॉल करके पता कर लीजिए। जब उन्होंने कॉल किया है, जब वो नीचे आए हैं, तब मेरे को पता पड़ा है कि ये हिंदू है, मुसलमान है, आफ्ताब है, नहीं तो मेरे को पता ही नहीं था इसके बारे में।
Well, Anvit, one of the aspects for the cops, the psychoanalysis and now the narco analysis. Narco analysis results are not admissible in court, but do the cops want to do it so that they can ascertain whether Aaftab is taking them on a wild goose chase or telling the truth? Is that the basic reason why they want to get it done?
That is the very basis, Anand. And I would also like to make a difference. Psychoanalysis test and narco analysis are two different things. Police want the psychoanalysis test to understand the line of thought, the thought process that this man has. He had been living with a live-in partner for past 3 years. They were together, and then one night, as per his confessions, he, in a fit of rage, he murders her first and then chops her into 35 odd pieces and scatters her body. Police are wanting to know whether this man has been under some trauma in the past, which has resulted in him unleashing such brutality on a live-in partner. Narco analysis test, on the other hand, will give police actually a clear idea of whether this man is trying to take them on a wild goose chase or he's stating truth. Narco analysis test, sodium pentothal is injected in the person, which is also known as truth serum. This chemical takes a person to a hypnotic kind of stage and allows them to speak freely and not able to restrict truth. So police are, even though this is not admissible as you rightly mentioned, but police are looking forward that he might spill some beans which may lead them to crucial evidences in this case which are still missing.
Anshul, what did the lawyers have to say? Is there anybody who's trying to defend Aaftab, or is he arguing his case for himself so far? There is word that he has not called for a lawyer, he's not asked for the services of a lawyer. What details do we have on that front?
The officer of the case was the person who actually came out and put forth his demand in front of the court, because the police was seeking police custody in this entire extension in police custody in the entire matter, and hence the investigating officer of the case came and asked for that police custody. However, there was no arguments from either sides of the lawyers, because the police that was being heard in front of the courts, and the said that it is very, very crucial that police custody is.
He went to places like Kasol, Manali, Dharamshala, and then places in Uttarakhand before arriving in Delhi on the 8th of May. So all these, he needs to be taken to all these places so that a sequence of events could be made, which could help the police in framing the final charge sheet in this case. And the judge has agreed to all these points, and that is the reason why a 5-day extension has been given, although the IO was seeking for a 10-day police custody. But yes, the judge said that 5 days would be enough, since 5 days of police custody has already been given. So yes, the judge said that 5-day police custody would be enough, in which the narco test could also be conducted, and also over the next few days we could expect that the police might take Aaftab to places in Himachal and Dharamshala, and also to the hotel in which he was living from May 8th to May 13th, just before he shifted into that house in Chhatarpur.
Right. Yash, every time for 4 days Aaftab has been taken to the Mehroli jungle. Has he taken the cops to the same spot every time, or did he visit a different spot every night? And did he say that he has disposed some remains in different parts of the jungle? The other question is, how was he able to access those areas in the dead of the night at 2 a.m.?
Well, Anand, first I will answer the first question you have asked. Well, in fact, Aaftab had said to the police, and he has actually maintained that he has thrown those body pieces in different parts of this jungle to avoid any sort of suspicion. And yesterday he was brought to this very location, and also day before yesterday. Actually, Aaftab was brought in from one part of the jungle, and today he has been yesterday, and he has been brought from the other part of the jungle. So Aaftab had maintained till now, what we are given to understand from our sources, is that he has said that he had thrown these body parts in different location in this very jungle, and this is actually a very big jungle. It starts from Chhatarpur and it ends towards the Gurgaon border, Haryana border, and that's what he had been maintaining, that he had scattered all those pieces in different parts of the jungle. To answer the second question, why he chose that particular timing in the night is because he actually when the police talked about when there were certain allegations made by the police as to when he was roaming around in the city, why police was not able to catch him, that was the same defense he was using. The time he chose was 2 a.m. in the morning, and it was because there was actually very less police on the roads, and in fact people were also moving. There was less movement of people, and in fact these terrains and these jungles are not quite accessible to common people, and that's why he chose this particular jungle to dispose of Shraddha's body. And in fact he also what we can understand from what happened inside, what happened with the questioning with this main accused in this matter, he has told that all the pieces have been thrown in this part, in this jungle only, but they are thrown in different parts, and it's actually a Herculean task for the police to collect all the pieces and to make sure that all the pieces of Shraddha's bodies are collected. And in fact a forensic report will be the next way forward to ascertain whether those body parts belong to Shraddha or not.
We talked about the forensic reports and the charge and the task that the forensic lab has in front of it. It's cut out because there are huge amounts of bone fragments that would have been recovered, which belongs to a human being, which doesn't. They have to sort that out and then match each of those fragments, which are human remains, with Shraddha's DNA and look for the crucial clue, which will perhaps help the police somewhere make a case, a solid case against Aaftab in court, by which he can be punished by the law for the crime that he claims to have committed. We have accessed gory details of the probe too. We'll go to that in just a bit. However, first, Anand Tiwari of News18 has been able to speak with the Forensic Science Lab Director, Deepa Verma, particularly on the Shraddha murder case. Listen in.
नमस्कार मैम, आनंद तिवारी बोल रहा था न्यूज 18 इंडिया से जी। मैम आप डायरेक्टर हैं एफएसएल की। ये जो केस हुआ है दिल्ली में, इस तरह के केस आपने पहले आपकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन में देखे हैं या आपके लिए रेयर ऑफ द रेयर है ये केस?
जी, जो हमारी लेबोरेटरी इस तरह के केसेस में हमारा डायरेक्ट कोई रोल नहीं होता है, लेकिन हमारे पास मर्डर से रिलेटेड जो केसेस रहते हैं इस तरह के एग्जिबिट एग्जामिनेशन के लिए आते हैं लैब में, और इस तरह के भी एग्जिबिट हमें प्राप्त होते हैं। हम उससे एग्जामिनेशन के बाद नोट रेडी करके इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग एजेंसी को वापस कर देते हैं।
मैम ये जो केस है, इस केस में मैम आपकी टीम पुलिस के साथ थी, साउथ डिस्ट्रिक्ट पुलिस के साथ, किस तरह के एग्जिबिट्स और अब तक जो बॉडी पार्ट्स के सैंपल है वो आप लोगों ने रिकवर करे हैं, और उनकी रिपोर्ट कितनी चुनौतीपूर्ण होगी पुलिस के लिए इस केस को क्रैक डाउन करने के लिए?
देखिए, जो हमारी टीम वहाँ पर जाकर विजिट करती है, जितने भी एविडेंसेस वर्क होते हैं उसको कलेक्ट करने में वो इन्वेस्टिगेशन की हेल्प करती है। तो जो एग्जिबिट के इंडिविजुअल डिटेल है वो इन्वेस्टिगेशन ही आपको बेहतर बताएगी, क्योंकि ये एविडेंस कलेक्शन जितना भी रहा है वो उनका कॉन्फिडेंशियल पार्ट है और उसमें क्या एग्जामिनेशन होने चाहिए केस की थ्योरी के हिसाब से, इसका डिसीजन वही लोग करेंगे। हालांकि हमारे पास एग्जामिनेशन की हर तरह की सुविधा उपलब्ध है, तो हम जिस तरह का भी एग्जामिनेशन उनकी तरफ से रिक्वेस्ट आएगी, विल डू दैट।
मैम, एफएसएल ने कई बड़े केस में मदद करी है पुलिस की फोरेंसिक तौर पर। मैम, ये रेयर ऑफ द रेयर में इसको मेरिट पे लिया गया है। कितना वक्त लगता है मैम फोरेंसिक रिपोर्ट आने में, इस तरह की अगर बोन्स की या डीएनए की? इसमें भी डीएनए लिया गया है जो डिसीज है उनके फादर का।
देखिए, डिपेंड करता है कि आपको किस तरह का एग्जिबिट भेजा जाता है एग्जामिनेशन का। जनरली जो बोन सैंपल भेजे जाते हैं उसमें डीएनए एक्सट्रैक्शन में थोड़ा समय अधिक लगता है, और फिर ये भी डिपेंड करता है कि उसमें डीएनए की क्वांटिटी कितनी है, इस तरह का जो उसका बोन मटेरियल है वो किस तरह का है, उसमें हमें लाइव कितना समय कितना डीएनए एक्सट्रैक्ट हो पाता है। तो ये हमेशा इस तरह के केसेस चैलेंजिंग होते हैं, पर ये हाई एक्सपर्टीज हम लोगों के पास है, तो इस तरह के केसेस हमने किए हैं और वी हैव दैट कैपेबिलिटी टू एग्जामिन। ये तो सैंपल आने के बाद ही पता चलेगा कि कितना समय किस तरह के एग्जामिनेशन, और तो एक डीएनए एग्जामिनेशन के लिए केस आता है या और भी जो सपोर्टिव एविडेंसेस होते हैं केस के लिए, जैसे साइबर रिलेटेड एग्जिबिट्स हुए या फिर किसी और तरह का टेस्ट हुआ, साइकोलॉजिकल टेस्ट हुए, ये सब हर केस का जो लगने वाला समय है वेरी करता है। ओके,
So that was Deepa Verma saying that they have the ability to do to test, and they will do what is asked of them. They are not directly involved. Their job is to facilitate and support and provide answers where questions remain as far as the forensic aspect is concerned. But they have done such cases in the past, and they have the ability to try and address and find the answers. How much time it will take, that depends on the amount of work that is there and the amount of attention to detail that needs to be paid. At this point, let's quickly look at the gory details of the probe of the entire murder. That's what we have got, the details of what was committed, the timelines, the 18th, 19th, the 20th of May onwards. So 18th of May between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. is when the murder was committed. Aaftab murdered Shraddha between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. on the 18th of May 2022. The body remains in Aaftab's room all night. He actually searches on Google how to dispose of a body after murder. He searched that and tried to see what are the solutions available now that he's committed the murder. On the 19th, he goes to buy a knife and a fridge. He removes the internal organs from the body so that it doesn't start stinking and rotting and he throws away the organs in a garbage dump. So he goes ahead and disposes of the organs separately. He then cuts the body into several pieces, burns her face to make it unidentifiable. That's one claim that he's made, that he's actually burnt the face to make it unidentifiable. He throws her clothes on a passing garbage van and throws it away, those soiled clothes. The cops have been able to identify that particular van which was passing that day. And they've also identified the two dump sites where these vans go ahead and dump. But so far, they have not yet found those clothes because it is more than 6 months that this entire incident has happened. Then what happens between the 20th of May to the 6th of June, over the next 18 days? What he does is he's gone ahead and disposed of the body parts over a period of 18 days. So this is what was committed between the 18th of May and the 6th of June by Aaftab after he murdered Shraddha. We take a very short break. Stay with us.
Organizations. What happens if Putin dies? Nobody knows. It is literally a country with nuclear weapons, with a veto in the Security Council, spanning 9 time zones, run by one person. So we can't be sure. I think that my gut is that he will survive because he has created what he himself calls a vertical of power, which is so strong that it's very difficult to imagine even a military defeat dislodging him. Because who would replace him? Would it be a general? Would it be he's insulated himself from a lot of challenges. He's killed most of his political opponents or jailed them or exiled them. The military is as far as we can tell, firmly under his control. He has a presidential guard, by the way, that is the only army that is allowed in Moscow. We're not sure how large it is, but it is probably over 100,000 soldiers that are under his personal control. It's a kind of like the Roman emperors had this Praetorian Guard. Putin has his own Praetorian Guard. It's a significant blow, but I myself think it would take more than that to dislodge this guy who's been in power 21 years now.
We have information from the Polish president. Also, American officials have been saying this over the last few hours, that it looks likely that this missile originated from Ukraine and not from Russia, and that it accidentally strayed onto Polish territory, killing 2 Polish citizens. Does this now sort of dampen down, scale down the possibility of any escalation in this war?
Oh, yes. I think it's highly unlikely that this event will produce any kind of upward spiral or escalatory spiral. Frankly, even if it had come out of Russian territory, I think it has been heartening to see the seriousness, the sobriety, and the caution with which mostly all the NATO members have been handling this. Recognizing that the important issue is not even was there something that came out of Russia, but was there an intention? Does it appear to have been a planned attack? I think people recognize that, look, war is a very messy business, and this is one of the many reasons why wars are terrible, and the sooner we can end this war, the better. There are going to be these kind of accidents, miscalculations, things like that. The important thing is to keep guardrails in place that do not produce unnecessary escalation, particularly escalation that comes out of an accident. So I think it's been heartening to see that there has been no irresponsible behavior on any side with regard to this. So I think that the chances of escalation are pretty low.
Had this been actually a missile that was fired from Russia with intent or accidentally and then hit Polish territory, do you think NATO would have been forced to respond because of Article 5, which says that an attack on one is an attack on all?
No, I think that, look, the Russians, if you remember, shot down a Malaysian airliner, and it didn't produce any kind of, any calls for an attack on Russia. Look, there is a very important difference between an intentional launch and an accidental, not even a launch, but the strain.
Back on The Nation at 5 with the mega CNN News 18 exclusive. It's a big news break that we put out here close to noon earlier in the day. Multiple Kashmiri journalists working with local publications resigned after a terrorist organization put out a list of over a dozen media persons accusing them of being informers of security forces. That's how the narrative has always been spun. So anybody who takes on these secessionist elements or Pak-backed elements then gets tried to be branded differently. But on CNN News 18, we are exposing the mastermind behind this entire plot, this entire psyops desperation that's come in. We've been able to piece together that who are these ISI puppets, stooges who are doing it. These are terrorists who are operating on from foreign soil. We've been able to access an entire dossier that's been prepared, which shows that these elements who are sitting abroad on foreign soil are connected to certain moles within. And it is these moles who are part of the journalistic fraternity, the civic society in Jammu and Kashmir, who have put forth these names, and that's why they've been listed. 6 individuals have been identified, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the Jammu and Kashmir police suspecting the role of the Lashkar Front, TRF, and exactly that's the case. But CNN News 18 accessing this dossier that details the entire plot. It's not just Pakistan and its proxies, but also there is a Turkey connection that is emerging. The person who's the mastermind or who's orchestrating it is a erstwhile resident of Srinagar, who moved to Ankara or was seen in Ankara in 2018. Ankara is in Turkey, and this person is Mukhtar Baba, a 55-year-old terrorist who is now issuing these threats to journalists. This terrorist, original resident of Srinagar, who escaped to Turkey. He visits Pakistan often and is the kingpin behind this entire psyops game or this communications narrative that's spun. He's also brainwashing, grooming youngsters, influencing them via social media. He's a network of journalists that he built under over a period of time, because he also worked with journalist or media groups operating out of Jammu and Kashmir in the past, organizations, outfits like Greater Kashmir and some other organizations he's been a part of. So he understands the media environment and he has connect and contact too on ground. Mukhtar Baba, notorious for coercive means against journalists. He was, after the 2010 agitation, he also joined Masarat Alam's Muslim League. He had been arrested in the past for selling 40 AK-47 rifles, for which he earned a huge amount of money. And he was part of the Hezbollah, but he then took out sold these rifles to another terrorist organization. He was then ousted, he was arrested, he came out of bars, came out from behind bars, and then after that continued this propaganda work and intimidation efforts. The efforts to push the narrative at the behest of hostile foreign agencies, specific media outlets fulfilling the adversary's agenda, intimidating other journalists, and more than 6 associates of this Mukhtar Baba have been identified based on absolute objective evidence. There is another aspect that he is in regular touch. Chat details intercepts show he's been in regular touch with Sajjad Gul. Sajjad Gul is again an ISI puppet. He is the communications front for the Lashkar and the TRF, who sits there and pens these notes, etc., and literature. He designs, he knows Adobe and Photoshop, so he designs all of these and then pushes it on social media. So there have been conversations, and some of these conversations have happened even ahead of the murder of Shujat Bukhari. Javed Beg and Amit Raina with us at this point. We have accessed this dossier. There are more details. In fact, 2 individuals have already been identified. And the suggestion is that don't wait to identify the locations of the remaining 4. Go ahead and nab these 2. Amit Raina, Javed Beg. Amit Raina, what would you say?
See, there was always a pro-separatist element in the media fraternity in Jammu and Kashmir. And before 2019, they were more powerful than the mainstream media, than the pro-Indian elements in the media. What happened was, after 2019, because they lost their political patronage, because the government of India was strict on people who were involved in terror finance, terror funding, or terror communication, the sources of funds were dried. And if you see the change in the media communication in Kashmir post 2019, you will find it to be much more open, you will find it to be much more democratic, and you will find it to be much more anti-Pakistan and pro-India. Now, this is something which was not liked by Pakistan and especially the civil society, the so-called civil society in Kashmir, which always was pro-Pakistan and anti-India, was in worries for many months now, accusing people in Greater Kashmir, Rising Kashmir, of being pro-India, damaging the cause of jihad, damaging the cause of separatism. And today they have gone and tried to, as target killings have been happening of Kashmiri Hindus and other Hindus in this part of this valley. So there is a communication being sent that it's an effort, communication being sent saying that everything is not normal in Kashmir, and a fierce attempt of fierce psychosis is being made to push media, saying that you cannot, you have to go back to the old track. There's an attempt to create fear psychosis in people who believe in the idea of India, who believe in the Constitution of India. So there's a consistent effort happening from across the border, and all old people who have been part of this network, who are out right now, not outside India, not under control of government of India, or arrested. So they are trying to revive those networks and ensure that because the battle Pakistan is losing is somewhere revived.
What should be done of such elements? Because these 6 individuals have been named and identified who are still spinning narratives, who will not say anything when journalists are being threatened openly by these secessionist forces and terrorists, but then they will make all the noises otherwise. So, Javed Beg, What should be done out of these individuals who have now been identified? Should there be a crackdown? Should they be treated as OGWs?
Anand, I first of all congratulate our security institutions who were able to identify these elements and who already named them, that too within 24 hours. So this gives again a lot of confidence to people who were always made target to these vultures. But one thing we have to understand, which needs a national response. There is a global cabal, being run against our country. Turkey is part and parcel of that global cabal. This whole global ecosystem of terror has, gained some good ground in countries like Turkey and Malaysia. We have to understand that, identify these countries, and on national level, we have to give our response. This is very important now. Second, most important thing is, as you rightly said, there are elements in our system as well who always try to gain sympathy, try to gain political mileage out of showing Kashmir in a different picture. But today they are silent. Those people who are members of honorable parliament, they are silent today. I was threatened, my family been threatened in the past. A hit list being made public. There are people who are enjoying this. They are giving it a different color. They also have to be identified. There are political parties who have been trying to portray a different picture of Kashmir. They are silent today. That national, a national narrative has to be made to identify these people also. If we are identifying the elements of ISI and other terror network working in Kashmir, they should be.
Well, this is what the dossier.
As bad as an OGW is being treated. And a
This
terrorist
is what the dossier says, and I'm reading portions from there, the text itself, that enclosed is a list of 6 individuals in a sealed envelope who are in frequent contact with Mukhtar Baba, 2 of whom have been identified on ground. Without waiting for ascertainment of the remaining 4 on ground, it is recommended that these 2 may be apprehended. That's what the document very clearly says, the suggestion clearly says. And who is this 55-year-old? Amit Raina, who are these 55-year-old? Who's this 55-year-old Mukhtar Baba? He worked as a journalist with Greater Kashmir, Kashmir Observer, CNS and PVI earlier, and therefore is very familiar with the media environment in Kashmir. He had remained in Kot Bhalwal jail for quite some time in 1990, and as per reports, he's been placed in Turkey sometime in 2018 by Joda Karen Fisher. She's the one who's extracted him from there. An American national of German origin who operated in JNK as a deep penetration ISI agent for almost 8 years before her cover was blown and she was forcefully deported. So this is how deep the rot runs, Amit Raina.
Yes. That it is quite deep in the system, and as I said earlier, this Mukhtar Baba not only understands how media works in Kashmir, he also knows who are the people who are sympathetic to the cause. He also uses them to identify the people who are doing a fair reporting today, who are not sympathetic to the cause, and he's exploiting the same. So the 2 people, the 6 people who have been identified, you need to do the same thing what you have done to Naeem Khan or to Shabir Shah, and they need to be picked and detained and sent to jails across the country and let them rot there. Because if effort is being made to make things back normal, such messages, such communications definitely creates fear. You have certain people resigning in certain newspapers out of fear, and it is quite natural. So one has to send a very strong message to the masses, saying that this will not be tolerated.
Very, very rightly said. And somewhere the government has also got to use its diplomatic leverage with Turkey to ensure that this man is spotted, nabbed by the authorities, and then extradited so that he can be brought to justice and he cannot continue to spew venom, vitriol, and also brainwash impressionable minds. These activities on foreign soil need also to be stopped and curbed. There is a recommendation that this entire ecosystem needs to be wiped out systematically, because it's not about who's firing the bullet at the end. It's about who's orchestrating it and then eventually getting it to a situation that somebody can come there and then just go ahead and target innocents in Jammu and Kashmir. Javed Beg and Amit Raina, thank you very much. Quick break here on The Nation at 5.
But in order to do that, there needs to be a concerted effort to get the Russians on board. India is perfectly positioned to do it, and I think it really should take this opportunity.
And now that India is going to be the next president of the G20, it's going to be hosting the G20 summit this coming year as well. But just to round off this conversation on the war, and then we'll come to Donald Trump in a moment. What's the future looking like for Vladimir Putin? Because clearly, as you said, he's not winning this war. Can a Putin who's been defeated on the battlefield, or someone who has to settle for something less than what he started off with, would he be able to survive?
It's anybody's guess. It's a very closed system. It's a very personalistic system, Jacob. If you think about it, this is the most personalistic dictatorship in the world, by which I mean even Xi Jinping. If Xi Jinping were to die tomorrow, you know what happens. The Central Committee of the Communist Party the Standing Committee of the Politburo would get together, they'd vote. One of the 7 members would become the next leader of China. If in a monarchy, if King Salman were to die, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia becomes king. In other words, there is institutions and rules of succession organizations. What happens if Putin dies? Nobody knows. It is literally a country with nuclear weapons, with a veto in the Security Council, spanning 9 time zones, run by one person. So we can't be sure. I think that my gut is that he will survive, because he has created what he himself calls a vertical of power, which is so strong that it's very difficult to imagine even a military defeat dislodging him. Because who would replace him? Would it be a general? Would it be he's insulated himself from a lot of challenges. He's killed most of his political opponents, or jailed them, or exiled them. The military is, as far as we can tell, firmly under his control. He has a presidential guard, by the way, that is the only army that is allowed in Moscow. We're not sure how large it is, but it is probably over 100,000 soldiers that are under his personal control. It's a kind of like the Roman emperors had this Praetorian Guard. Putin has his own Praetorian Guard. It's a significant blow, but I myself think it would take more than that to dislodge this guy who's been in power 21 years now.
We have information from the Polish president. Also, American officials have been saying this over the last few hours, that it looks likely that this missile originated from Ukraine and not from Russia, and that it accidentally strayed onto Polish territory, killing 2 Polish citizens. Does this now sort of dampen down, scale down the possibility of any escalation in this war?
Oh, yes. I think it's highly unlikely that this event will produce any kind of upward spiral or escalatory spiral. Frankly, even if it had come out of Russian territory, I think it has been heartening to see the seriousness, the sobriety, and the caution with which mostly all the NATO members have been handling this. Recognizing that the important issue is not even was there something that came out of Russia, but was there an intention? Does it appear to have been a planned attack? I think people recognize that, look, war is a very messy business, and this is one of the many reasons why wars are terrible, and the sooner we can end this war, the better. There are going to be these kind of accidents, miscalculations, things like that. The important thing is to keep guardrails in place that do not produce unnecessary escalation, particularly escalation that comes out of an accident. So I think it's been heartening to see that there has been no irresponsible behavior on any side with regard to this. So I think that the chances of escalation are pretty low.
Had this been actually a missile that was fired from Russia with intent or accidentally and then hit Polish territory, do you think NATO would have been forced to respond because of Article 5, which says that an attack on one is an attack on all?
No, I think that, look, the Russians, if you remember, shot down a Malaysian airliner, and it didn't produce any kind of, any calls for an attack on Russia. Look, there is a very important difference between an intentional launch and an accidental, not even a launch, but the straying of a missile, which appears to be exactly what happened here. I think that Poland might have called a meeting to convey the importance and the seriousness of this, partly because obviously when you lose your own people, you have to show that you care about it and you want to do something. But I don't think we're not in a world in which that, an accidental launch would result in NATO declaring war on Russia.
Pakistan is ordering terrorists to threaten Indian journalists in Kashmir. This is another sign of desperation. Messages being put out, social media propaganda, which now CNN News 18 has access.
Russia launching a series of missile strikes. The Ukrainians claim up to 100 missiles hit Ukrainian targets. That's why the Ukrainians had to fire in self-defense.
In terms of this level of depravity in this toxic relationship, we certainly would want swiftest and strictest punishment against him for what clearly is the rarest of the rare crime.
Lost, as far as one can tell, almost half of their advanced armored equipment, tanks, armored vehicles, missiles, things like that. And there seem to be casualties that are approaching about 100,000. Now, these are guesses, but that seems to be the extent of the Russian loss. So it's very difficult to see how this can be painted in any way as a Russian victory. Now, on the other hand, Ukraine is a much, much smaller country than Russia. The Russian defense budget is 10 times the size of Ukraine's. So this is a David and Goliath story in which David is doing astonishingly well. But unlike in the biblical tale, David is unlikely to be able to vanquish or completely defeat or destroy Goliath. So what is most likely is that David will cause a kind of stalemate. The Ukrainians will force the Russians to be stuck in their core territories in the Donbass, probably in Crimea. And at that point, when you have a real stalemate where the Russians are not advancing, but the Ukrainians are finding it very hard to advance, that's when negotiations will begin. I think the Ukrainian government has made it clear that they are open to negotiations. The Russian government has not. And I think that India can actually play a very important role here, because the key has to be to make Putin accept that he has not gotten what he wanted. The Ukrainians have been living with half a loaf since 2014. They have been living without Crimea, without the Donbass. That's about 20% of Ukraine's territory. Russia has to accept that it is not going to get what it wanted. And then there can be a negotiation about how you describe places like Crimea and the Donbass. My guess is we'll have them as kind of frozen conflicts, a little bit like what has happened in Kashmir, when neither side recognizes the other, but kind of life goes on. But in order to do that, there needs to be a concerted effort to get the Russians on board. India is perfectly positioned to do it, and I think it really should take this opportunity.
And now that India is going to be the next.
Back on the Nation at 5 with the latest on the Leicester violence. Now, CNN News 18 has accessed a report from the Network Contagion Research Institute, or the NCRI, which shows that after the initial clashes between India and Pak fans, cricket fans, a concerted campaign of misinformation was launched online, which played a direct role in escalating communal tension. So this was intended, as per the report, as it decodes the Leicester plot. Attacks instigated by fake news narratives that were pushed online. The report further says online campaign after initial clashes between cricket fans. A malicious online narratives played a key role in instigating the attacks. A lot of these narratives or these tweets, posts have now been deleted. Alarm created over the rise of Hindu nationalism and anti-Muslim hate. False reports of child kidnapping, attacks on mosques were spread online. Conspiracies of global dominance and ethnic hatred spread during the unrest. Influencer Majid Freeman, an Al-Qaeda and ISIS supporter, amplified the lies. Online campaigns depicted Hindus as aggressors, Muslim groups depicted as retaliating and responding to the aggression. So that's what the whole narrative, that's how it was spun. Analysis shows viral Islamophobic content emanated from networks in India, and there were a few handles which pushed concentrated tweets on this line, and it all happened from India. That's what the NCRI report says. We have the full report and also the summary. Rashmi Samant, former president, Oxford University Students' Union and activist, with us. Rashmi, so this was a concerted agenda, and a lot of it was fueled from India too.
Was used as a
Rashmi, can you hear me?
target for reporting and false propaganda with maliciously.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I can hear you. Unfortunately, social media was used as a weapon to target the Hindus. In this case, over 69% of the false reporting was actually anti-Hindu, if you look closely in the report. And British Pakistani networks were widely used to propagate it. And it is also disheartening to see that Indian networks were involved in this effort to target Hindus in Leicester. What is soon becoming apparent is that there was a global conspiracy behind the Leicester attacks, and it was not simply a squabble over a Pakistan-India match. This was something much bigger than that, and there was intensive planning that went into this coordinated attack, as the AI modeled report shows, which has now put a quantificational, it has quantified the hate, it has quantified all of the reports to give us a proper mathematical number so as to where this originated and how it was propagated in the networks. I think it will be useful in determining the future course of action and how Hindu communities can take action to protect themselves from such malicious propaganda, which can lead to on-street violence in their own homes.
Right, but one of the aspects, Rashmi, in this, it also says, and I'm just reading through the summary says, among the most retweeted content that leveled identity attacks, NCRI has found blame for the events was placed on Muslims by a concentrated but highly retweeted network coming from India.
Well, it also, the report, I think this was the part that Bloomberg News chose to report, but the report also shows heavy British Pakistani networks involved in it.
Yes.
In the same effort. So I think it is apparent that this is deeper than just a Hindu-Muslim community squabble in Leicester, but this has deeper connections to extremist elements both in India and in Pakistan, which are anti-Hindu.
But do you believe that these platforms can do better to try and stop such kind of vitriol being spread, misinformation being spread? Because the summary report also says that the patterns of reciprocal escalation are likely to continue to heighten unless platforms can better detect and prevent the abuse of their products to harm vulnerable populations. So can this be done only by the platforms, or can the government also bring in some regulations especially when such things are happening, and is there a mechanism that can be put in place to monitor such activity?
Well, I think both platforms and government agencies have to take active steps to curb this, because platforms are global, but these issues are localized. The same issues might not happen in India that happen in the UK. So countries need to take specific actions and measures to control things as per the, the climate, the cultural mix that they have within their own countries. I think it really helped that Leicester police was quick to call out reports about a mosque being attacked by Hindus, and that actually saved many Hindus from being exposed to more violence in Leicester. So I think the police needs to do more of active policing on realms other than just the physical world, and also on social media and other platforms where crime is fast spreading.
Right. Rashmi Samant, thank you for joining us on this NCRI report and the story that we put out here. We're going to wind up the Nation at 5 on that note. Zaka ready with Viewpoint.
Good evening, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. There is fresh drama around the Shraddha murder case. Her murderer boyfriend Aaftab was produced in court today virtually, which then sent him for a further remand of another 5 days. Court has also given the go-ahead for the Narco test to be performed on Aaftab. But a week after this horrific crime came to light,